Let's start off here with Bitcoin on the 4 hour, a little bit of an update. We are still kind of in this sideways action here. As I was talking about last time, that this was a very real possibility. We're sort of stuck between about this resistance here between 10.2 and 10.4, and then there's some support below us between 9 and 9.2. Also, there's this ascending trend line we've been holding above, but there's also this descending channel that I've talked about, and I'm still a little unsure which one we should really be watching for what's going to happen next. There's a really good chance we will keep ascending. It's been holding for a long time. My colleague Will just yesterday spoke about how the Federal Reserve cut interest rates, and that could be pretty bullish for Bitcoin. You should go check out that video. I agree. It actually should be pretty bullish for Bitcoin, but it's also the kind of bullish that we might not see so much in the next few days as we see in the next few months. But there's every reason I think we could keep ascending on this line. We look like we might be about to retest this resistance here. Basically watch for a break up above about 10.4. If that happens, we're going to also see some resistance at 11 and probably even 11.5 area. And if we get all the way up to the top of this channel, that could be bullish, but we're going to need to break out for a true bullish move here. Otherwise, we might just be defining a descending channel. On the downside, watch for a break below this line. Watch for a break below this Fibonacci level at about 9.5. And if we see a solid break below 9,000, then look for us to test down to the bottom of this channel, especially if it happens soon. And around 8.4 area is what I would say. After that, I want to talk about some alts. That about does it for Bitcoin. And I want to talk about different alts than I usually talk about. Some of the newcomers to the alt scene. Basically ones that didn't live through the last market cycle. So let's start off by looking at those. Here we see Binance Coin, or BNB, on the daily. And basically, I wanted to show how this and other fairly new coins, this has only been around since mid-2018, really, are performing. Last week, or last video, I talked about some of the patterns that were forming in altcoins, but I didn't really talk about some of the newcomers. I talked about a lot of the more established altcoins. So here we have Binance Coin. It's been on a pretty solid ascending line ever since, looks like about January. And we've seen some support and resistance where we would have expected. We got stopped out up at this Fibonacci level up here at about $40. We retraced back down. There was some resistance also at around 35. And we retraced back down to about 26. And we've basically held above not only that Fibonacci level, but this trend line pretty well. Now it looks like we're testing back up. So if Bitcoin still continues to do well, and again, like I've said in previous videos, I still see that most of the alts are moving more with Bitcoin and with the market in general as opposed to against it, or, altcoin season hasn't started yet. But if the market does well, these coins should continue to rise along these trend lines. And then watch for BNB to test back up towards $35, If we see a breakout above that, watch for 40, I'd say, is the next major level. We could get rejected off 35 and come back to this trend line, which would probably, if it happened fairly quickly, would still bring us into the $30 or so range. So, but if the market keeps growing, then it's every reason to think right now that BNB will continue on this trend. So now let's look at BitTorrent Token. BTT here on the daily. And notice how on the one hand it is not performed as admirably as Binance Coin, but it is still technically on an ascending line. But it was a little bit more pump and dumpy. I'm not saying it's a pump and dump coin. I'm just saying that we saw a pretty intense rise followed by a fairly quick fall to close to the same level. But it is still up. It's still in a positive. So it also doesn't follow on the Fibonacci quite as closely, but there are certain levels to watch out for. I'd say most notably when we start heading back up, this is another one that I think will generally grow. If slower, it'll grow as long as the market does. I'd say this level at about a tenth of a cent will be the first major resistance to watch out for. After that, you kind of just have these Fibonacci levels are kind of the main spots to watch out for. So then you have about 0.12 cents and 0.13 cents. So as long as we don't break above this trend line, watch for that. Then we're probably going back to these recent lows at around, what is that, about a 0.6 of a cent. So yeah. Not as strong of a performer, but growing, and in a similar pattern, just not as intense. So yeah. One more coin I want to look at next, Chainlink. So let's look at that. Last coin here I want to touch on, Chainlink, a fairly popular newcomer. And it's kind of in between the other two we just talked about, in that it's performing pretty well, but it also still had a bit of an exponential runaway and then a return to recent values. So basically, yeah, we have this pretty solid resistance that turned into support at the Fibonacci level at about $2. And that came back to that level right about where it should have to meet the rising trend line it's been on. Again, all these coins are rising, and nicely. So like the other coins I was talking about, watch for if it's going to be bearish, watch for a solid break below this trend line, below $2 basically. But again, if the market does well, it'll probably keep rising, and this one seems to be responding more to Fibonacci levels, so we probably will see some resistance at about 250, at about 3. But if the market's strong, it'll probably carry on this trend line until it doesn't, until the trend breaks. But for now, watch out for that. Once again, that ought to do it for me. As I'm always saying, this is not investment advice. This is just my personal opinion. Go do your own research, make your own decisions. Until next time, don't forget to like and subscribe. Good luck with those trades.